Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today I will recap for you a drama, fantasy, mystery film from 2005 titled The Jacket. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The year is 1992, and Jack, a 28-year-old American veteran, walks along a snow-covered road in search of a ride. 12 months ago, while overseas fighting in the Gulf War, Jack was shot in the face by a young boy and later pronounced dead by the field doctors before unexpectedly opening his eyes and breathing again. Jack encounters a middle-aged woman, Jean, who is clearly under the influence of drugs or alcohol, sitting on the side of the road next to a broken-down pickup truck. Since Jean is too inebriated to be of any help, Jack offers to look under the hood while the woman's young daughter, Jackie, takes note of the metal dog tags hanging from his pack. Jackie asks what the dog tags are for and Jack replies that they prevent him from getting lost by reminding him who he is, but when the girl politely asks if she can have the tags, Jack gives them to her. As Jean stumbles around nearby, all the while vomiting in the snow, Jack asks the girl to try the ignition and when the engine starts again, she runs to hug him. Meanwhile, Jean comes to, and, in her stoned reverie, begins yelling at Jack, demanding he gets away from her daughter. Jean ignores her daughter when she exclaims that Jack had just repaired their truck, and she ushers Jackie into the vehicle as Jack continues down the road. Several miles later, a man stops his car and after asking where Jack is headed, offers to drop him off at the Canadian border. After driving for a while, a police officer pulls up behind the car and when the driver looks back and notices the flashing blue lights, he asks if Jack has ever been to jail. Fast forward several months, Jack is on trial for the police officer's murder. Yet the only thing he remembers from that day is the mother and the young girl, whom he can only identify by their first names, and not a shred of evidence has been found to corroborate his story. Considering Jack's war history, and clear symptoms of short-term amnesia, Jack is found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to the Alpine Grove Psychiatric Hospital, a mental asylum for the criminally insane. The head of the hospital, Dr. Thomas Becker, has treated several high-profile criminals in the past and carries a reputation for employing either outdated or experimental treatment methods. One night early on, the staff injects Jack full of drugs, fits him with a straitjacket, and forces him into a mortuary drawer. The sensory deprivation floods Jack's mind with visions of his past. He first flashes back to his combat experience in the Middle East, then proceeds to the traffic stop which resulted in the police officer's death. However, it's still not enough for him to discern what transpired. Meanwhile, Dr. Hopkins, who openly opposes Becker's extreme treatment methods, checks on Jack from outside the drawer. The sound of someone stirring brings Jack back to reality, causing him to scream that he doesn't belong in the asylum. The following afternoon, during the patient's free time, another one of the physicians, Dr. Beth Lawrenson, tells Jack that he appears to be underweight, and when he responds that perhaps he's working it off in his dreams, Lawrenson seems to understand what he's referring to. Later that night, the staff returns to his room and repeats the process of placing Jack inside the drawer, but this time he feigns acquiescence to lull the staff into a false sense of his cooperation, then attacks Dr. Becker by striking him in the face, leaving a deep laceration on Becker's cheek. In his next session, Jack finds himself loitering outside a diner, late on Christmas Eve. A disheveled waitress, Jackie, pulls up next to him after leaving work, and since it's nearly Christmas and no cabs will pick him up, she offers to give him a ride somewhere. Jack gets into her car, but since he has no idea where he is or what direction he's headed, Jackie, not wanting to leave him out in the cold, ends up bringing Jack back to her house. There, Jackie calls around to find a local shelter for him to stay at, and when she's told every place is either closed or full for the holiday, Jack stands up, ready to leave. Jackie asserts that he will freeze to death without a coat, and since she already has more guilt than she knows what to do with and therefore cannot deal with anymore, she offers Jack her couch for the night. Jackie drowns herself in alcohol before going to take a bath, during which time Jack rummages through the refrigerator and pieces together enough ingredients to make toasted sandwiches for the two of them. Later, once Jackie is asleep, Jack looks around her place and stumbles across his metal dog tags. Shocked at the sight of his name, Jack enters the woman's room and wakes her to find out she got them. A startled Jackie is particularly alarmed when Jack brings up her mother by name and claims the ID tags belong to him. Several years ago, Jackie's mother died in a fire after passing out with a cigarette in hand. Discovering that he is somehow in 2007, Jack tries to articulate who he is, and he asks Jackie how she doesn't recognize him. Since there is no way to explain how he traveled forward over a decade in time, Jack instead tries to convince her by citing details from the day in question that would be impossible to deduce from the tags alone. His insistence, however, only upsets Jackie further, because while she isn't sure of the specific details, the real Jack Starks died on January 1, 1993. A now hysterical Jackie demands that Jack leave, and when he does, Jack wakes up back in 1992, inside the mortuary drawer. Dr. Hopkins criticizes Bleecker for confining Jack overnight, noting that an 8-hour period exceeds even the most extreme bounds of the effective time spectrum. However, the latter points the finger back at Dr. Hopkins, stating that Jack is also his patient. Therefore, if Hopkins was concerned for his safety, he should have stepped in and removed Jack himself. Elsewhere, Dr. Lawrenson treats a young boy, Babak, the disabled son of a friend whom she has been treating outside the hospital using occupational therapy, but with limited results thus far. Thinking back to Jackie's words, Jack determines that he needs to get back in the drawer to determine how, in just 6 days from now, he ends up dying on January 1st. During his next session, Jack returns to the day he met Jackie and her mother, and the police officer was killed. Upon approaching the pulled-over vehicle, the officer was abruptly shot by the car's driver. A shocked Jack steps out, and as the wounded officer falls backward into the snow, he fires a shot that misses its target and inadvertently hits Jack. The driver continues firing at the officer, then, after killing him, wipes his fingerprints off the gun and tosses it next to Jack's unconscious body before driving away. Jack then skips forward to 2007, where upon returning to Jackie's diner she finally agrees to help him. On Jackie's recommendation, they begin by visiting Alpine Grove, where Jack poses as his own nephew and meets with Dr. Lawrenson. After noting the striking similarities in appearance, she tells Jack that his uncle had been one of her most memorable patients. The Jack that Dr. Lawrenson remembers offered valuable insight into a difficult case that ultimately led to a struggling boy's recovery. Regarding his uncle's death, Lawrenson says she knows only that he died from a wound to the head and claims to have no further details, though her mannerisms suggest that she is withholding. Next, Jack leads Jackie downstairs to the mortuary, where he shows her the drawers, noting that in 1992, he is inside one of the drawers right now. Soon after, they're joined by one of the orderlies involved in Jack's mistreatment, who has since been plagued with dementia and is now a patient at the asylum. That night, Jack and Jackie have sex for the first time, and when Jackie wakes up the following morning, she finds herself alone, while Jack has been returned to 1992 after being removed from the drawer. Jack returns to the future and confronts the now much older Dr. Bleecker, certain that the doctor will have information regarding his death, but Bleecker isn't able to help. Decades of mistreating and experimenting on patients have left Bleecker so riddled with guilt that he has suppressed the memories of Jack and the others before him, and when he finally recognizes Jack, a tear runs down Bleecker's face. Afterward, Jack feels himself fading away, so he jumps into the back seat of the truck and asks Jackie her childhood address. As she provides the requested information, Jack disappears from view and finds himself back in 1992. One day before his presumed death, Jack recounts his conversation with the current Dr. Lawrenson. Her patient, Babak, is not slow, it merely appears that way because he is effectively in a constant state of seizure. Jack tells Lawrenson that he knows from the future that she will eventually come to the same conclusion and resolve the problem with electroconvulsion therapy. Lawrenson contends that ECT is far too dangerous to be used on a patient so young, but due to her lack of progress using traditional methods, the doctor takes a chance on Jack's assertion and administers a single, low-frequency electrical pulse to Babak, which results in his immediate improvement. With her confidence now earned, Jack asks Dr. Lawrenson to assist in delivering a letter to Jackie's mother. Dr. Lawrenson sneaks him out of the asylum and drives him to Jean's house, where young Jackie immediately recognizes him as the man who helped them repair their truck. Utilizing his knowledge of future events, Jack delivers the letter to Jean, noting that it's very important that she reads the letter thoroughly because it contains everything that he wants to tell her, and Jean promises that she will. Lawrenson drives Jack back to the asylum, where Jack slips on ice while getting out of the car and sustains a life-threatening head wound. Before he dies, Lawrenson assists Jack to the mortuary, places him in the straitjacket, and returns him to the mortuary drawer. Meanwhile, Jean reads the letter which warns that she will one day pass out with a cigarette in hand and burn to death in the fire. Jackie, as a result, grows up to live the same, sad life that Jean is living right now, all the while mourning her mother's death. However, it is never too late to make a change, because for some, life begins with the knowledge of death, and Jack knows firsthand that when you are dead, the only thing you want is to come back. Again in 2007, Jack stands in the parking lot outside the diner. Jackie, who in this alternative future is a registered nurse, finishes eating at the diner and after noticing that Jack is bleeding from the head, pulls up nearby and offers a ride to her hospital. As they're driving, Jackie receives a pleasant call from Jean, who avoided the fatal cigarette accident and now maintains a good relationship with her daughter. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to see more.